You text her, plan the date, compliment her, support her, and somehow she still pulls away, acts cold, gets distant. 1 minute you're everything, the next you're invisible. And the worst part, she never explains. You just feel it. The shift. It's not fair, it's not logical, but it's real. This isn't just about her. It's about your peace, your power, your place in this world. Because when you flip that switch, just once, and stop playing the game she expects, she will never see you the same again. Because in that moment, something in her breaks. She realizes she can't control you anymore. And for the first time, she respects you deeply, maybe even fears losing you. That's the shift. That's what we're unlocking today. Before we go deeper, comment the word untouchable if you've ever walked away, held your frame, or became the man she never expected. It's not just a word, it's a decision. Number 1, you ignore her when she expects validation. You've spent years chasing approval, though no one ever explained that's what you were doing. Every compliment, every quick text, every double tap on her new post. It all stems from this deep-rooted desire to feel seen, appreciated, worthy. And the sickest part is that society calls it kindness. You've been trained to think responsiveness is attractive, that availability is noble, that consistency means value. But what no one told you is that the more available you are to a woman who hasn't earned you, the more disposable you become. She loses respect, not because you lack value, but because you throw it around like spare change. Every time you interrupt your focus to reply to her, LOL. Every time you chase a dead-end conversation, hoping she'll reciprocate. Every time you reward her indifference with more energy, you train her brain to see you as less. And the brutal truth? It's not her fault. Her psychology is wired to respond to mystery, strength, unpredictability, not obedience. That guy who doesn't text back immediately, who waits a day to reply, who vanishes into his own world, he's the one she thinks about. He's the one she texts again, wondering what changed. She doesn't want endless access to your attention. She wants to earn it, even if she'll never admit that out loud. And when she doesn't, and you give it anyway, you become forgettable. Not hated, not disliked, just invisible. This is the crisis most men face today. You've been conditioned to believe validation equals connection, when in reality, it erodes it. So what's the solution? You must reclaim your attention like it's sacred, because it is. You need to stop explaining your silence, stop fearing her distance, stop acting like your time is worthless. When she posts thirst traps, don't engage. When she goes cold, don't chase. When she replies late, match her pace, and not out of spite, out of self-respect. Because your attention is the most powerful currency you possess, and the more freely you give it, the cheaper it becomes. If she's used to men flooding her DMS, be the silence. If she's used to validation at every turn, be the absence that makes her question herself. You don't need to be rude. You don't need to be distant. You just need to be focused on your purpose, your path, your peace. And yes, it will hurt at first. You'll feel like you're losing her, but what you're actually doing is shedding the illusion. The fantasy that proximity equals intimacy. It doesn't. Respect comes from distance, from scarcity, from the feeling that she can't just summon you with a snap. So set your phone down, stop reacting, start building. When you ignore her in moments where she expects you to validate her, especially when she's baiting you with indirect posts, drama, or silence, you flip the script. You become the man she didn't prepare for, the one she underestimated, the one she starts dreaming about, wondering how she lost your focus. And that wondering, it's what keeps you alive in her mind. You want to be unforgettable? Then stop being predictable. Stop being reachable at all hours. Start making her wait, not to punish her, but to reward yourself. Rewire your reflex, prioritize your peace. Watch how quickly she notices your absence and regrets ever taking you for granted. Number 2, you say no without giving reasons. You've been told that saying no makes you selfish, unkind, even unlovable. Since childhood, you've been conditioned to explain yourself, to justify every boundary, to smooth over discomfort. And now, as a man, you find yourself over-explaining decisions that don't need explanations. She asks you to skip your workout for dinner, and you say yes, even though it ruins your routine. She wants you to lend her money, and you agree despite your better judgment. She invites you to some event you're not interested in, and you show up, because saying no feels like betrayal. But what you don't realize is that every time you bend, you break. And not just in your mind, in her eyes. She stops seeing you as firm. She starts seeing you as flexible clay, malleable, software. And that softness kills desire, because the core of attraction is polarity, strength meeting energy. When you say no with quiet finality, without offering long-winded explanations, you assert value, and value creates interest. When she says, "Come over," and you say, "Not tonight," she might frown, but later she'll think, "Why not? What's he doing? Is he with someone else?" That space, that gap, is where intrigue is born. And that intrigue is stronger than any attention you could ever give her. Most men fear this because they associate no with conflict. But real conflict arises when you keep saying yes to avoid discomfort, and then silently resent her for it. The truth is, you're not helping her by folding. You're teaching her to expect weakness, and then resenting her when she loses interest. It's a tragic loop. So stop apologizing for your schedule. Stop softening your voice when declining plans. Stop explaining why you won't compromise your peace. Say no with clarity, with presence, with stillness. Because that calm refusal does more for your identity than 1,000 overextended apologies. Practice this daily. Start small. When someone interrupts your work, say, "Not right now." When she pushes for something you're not aligned with, say, "No thanks." Not angrily, not passively, just honestly. And watch what happens. She may test you more, push back, cry even. But what follows, if you hold the line, is transformation. She'll look at you differently. She'll feel something she hasn't felt before. Trust. Not trust in your agreeableness, but trust in your spine. Because a man who can say no is a man who can lead. And whether she admits it or not, she wants that more than she wants anything else. She wants to feel safe in your direction. And direction doesn't come from yes men. It comes from kings. And kings don't explain. They decide. So next time you feel the urge to justify your decision, pause. Ask yourself, do I need to defend this or just state it? If it's the latter, then breathe and deliver it. That's how you reclaim your life. One unapologetic no at a time. That's how you reclaim your life. One unapologetic no at a time. And if you've ever struggled to hold that line, if you've ever walked away from a conversation thinking, "Why did I fold again?" or found yourself exhausted from constantly proving your worth, then the Stoic relationship blueprint is for you. It's the truth they never taught you. This isn't just a book. It's a guide to emotional clarity, boundaries that command respect, and a mindset forged in peace, not performance. And once you download it, it's yours for life. No subscriptions, no expiry, just timeless knowledge that sharpens you every time you revisit it. The link's in the pinned comment. Own it, because access to power like this should never be left to chance. Number 3. You don't flinch at her tests. You're sitting across from her, and out of nowhere she brings up her guy friend, who totally gets her. Or she casually mentions an ex who used to treat her like a queen. She's watching your face, your eyes, your breath. Not because she cares about the story, but because she's measuring your reaction. You feel the heat rise in your chest. Your pride gets scratched. You want to defend yourself, argue, prove something. But deep down, you know the trap. She's not seeking conversation. She's hunting weakness. And if you flinch, if you so much as shift your tone, raise your voice, or tighten your jaw, you've already failed the test. This isn't cruelty, it's instinct. Women test not because they're evil, but because they're wired to feel safe with strength. And strength isn't shown through aggression. It's shown through indifference to provocation. She needs to know that your emotional world isn't hers to tamper with, that her pokes don't move you, that your sense of self isn't hanging on her approval. But for most men, this is torture, because you were raised to believe that communication means engagement, that when someone challenges you, you respond, you defend, you explain. But in the presence of feminine chaos, explanation is weakness, not because you're wrong, but because you're rattled. And rattled men can't lead. They can't protect. They can't stand tall when everything else falls apart. And women, no matter what they say, are not drawn to men who crumble. They want to feel like they're in the presence of something unshakable. You have to become that. You have to train yourself to hear the disrespect, feel the trigger, and still smile, still breathe, still say nothing, or better yet, change the subject entirely, not sarcastically, not passive-aggressively, calmly, like a man who knows what's worth engaging and what's beneath him. When she tries to make you jealous, laugh, not to mock her, but because you see the game. When she accuses you without reason, say, "I disagree," and move on. When she disrespects your time, end the conversation and continue your day. Not every test deserves a response. Most deserve silence. And that silence speaks volumes. It says, "I'm not here to dance for your entertainment. I'm not here to prove my value. I know what I bring. You're either in or you're out." And if she's out, let her go. Because a woman who doesn't respect your emotional composure will never respect anything else about you. The man who passes her tests isn't the loudest, the richest, or the toughest. He's the one who doesn't bend when poked, who doesn't explain his worth, who treats her tests like static on the radio, noise to be ignored while driving toward purpose. You must become that man. And it starts with awareness. Start noticing when she's baiting you, when she's pressing buttons. And instead of reacting, lean back, observe. Let her wonder why her tricks don't work anymore. That confusion, that shift, that's the birth of attraction. Because now she's not controlling the dynamic. You are. You've reclaimed your power. And that power is what separates the unforgettable from the forgettable. Number 4. You walk away while she's still talking. You're standing in the kitchen. She's raising her voice, spinning a story, maybe twisting your words, or calling out things that don't sit right. And every part of you wants to engage, to fix, to explain. But something stops you this time. A realization that no matter how perfect your words are, they'll fall on ears that aren't listening to understand, but listening to win, to gain power, to maintain leverage. And in that moment, you make a decision that shifts the entire dynamic. You walk away, not as a threat, not as a tantrum, but as a man who values his peace more than he values being heard. And she doesn't expect it. She's used to you staying, arguing, proving your point, letting her hijack your emotions. But now, you're done performing. You've seen the pattern, how every disagreement turns into a circus of accusations, half-truths, and double standards. How every valid concern you raise gets twisted into an attack. How your tone is policed while hers is allowed to spiral, and you finally see it for what it is. Not a conversation, but a power play. Because if she can pull you into chaos, she owns you. She drags you from your calm into her storm. And when you respond, she gets to say, "See, you're emotional too. But when you walk away, she's left alone with the mirror. No audience, no sparring partner, just silence. And that silence forces reflection, not always immediately, but eventually. She'll wonder why you didn't fight back, why you didn't plead for resolution, why you didn't crumble like before. And that wonder opens the door to respect. Because the truth is, most men are so desperate to be understood that they'll tolerate disrespect to explain themselves. They'll stay in rooms that drain them, argue for hours to fix what never gets fixed, apologize for things they didn't do just to keep the peace. But peace bought with your self-respect is fake. It's fragile. It never lasts. You must be willing to choose real peace, the kind that sometimes requires silence, solitude, and space. You must train yourself to spot the moment the conversation stops being mutual and starts being manipulative, and exit. No announcement, no grand gesture, just presence, then absence. And yes, she might call you cold, dismissive, detached. Let her. That reaction isn't truth, it's exposure. Exposure of a system that no longer works on you. A woman cannot respect a man who stays in arguments just to prove his care. Real care is silent. It has boundaries. It knows when to walk away and let the other person sit with their energy. That's what resets the dynamic. That's what teaches her that your time, your emotions, your energy are not hers to toss around like dice on a table. You want to be unforgettable. Don't scream louder. Disappear faster. Let your absence say what your words never could. Because when she realizes that your presence is a privilege, not a given, she either rises to meet your energy or falls away. Either way, you win. Because you've stopped playing the game. You've stepped off the roller coaster. You've become the man who doesn't explain his boundaries. He just enforces them with action. And in a world where most men beg to be heard, the one who walks away is the one she never forgets. Number 5. You flirt and then withdraw. You see her across the room. Your eyes meet. The moment's charged. She's waiting for the move you've made 100 times before, expecting you to lean in, to validate her with your body, your words, your intent. But this time you don't, not fully, because now you understand that giving her everything too soon kills the mystery. And mystery is the fuel of desire, not just for women, but for the dynamic that keeps her attention alive. Because the moment she knows she's got you, really got you, the game shifts, the air changes, and her mind starts wandering, because what's easily conquered is rarely treasured. So instead of melting into her gaze, instead of laying it all out like most men do, you flirt, you lean in just enough, you let the chemistry burn slow, then you pull back. Not as a tactic, not to manipulate, but to remind yourself and her that you are not starved for connection, that you don't chase what chases attention, that your self-control is sharper than your desire. And in that withdrawal, something shifts, because she expected you to fold, to escalate, to devour the moment. And instead, you held frame, you held presence, and most importantly, you held power. And now she's thinking deeply, irrationally, obsessively, because that almost kiss, that almost touch, that almost confession is more addictive than any act of seduction, because it lives in her imagination, and the imagination is where women fall in love, not with facts, not with logic, but with possibility, with potential. And you gave her just enough to feel, but not enough to consume. And now you haunt her in the best way. You stay alive in the moments after, and all because you didn't fall into the script of the predictable male, the one who jumps at every signal, who gives himself away too fast, too easily, who doesn't realize that restraint is not denial, it's dominance. Because when you show a woman that your desire doesn't own you, she sees a version of you she didn't expect. A man who tastes her presence and doesn't lose himself, who can kiss without chasing, touch without needing, feel without falling. And that is rare, that is power, that is unforgettable. But here's the part most don't tell you. Developing that restraint requires discomfort, because it's easier to give in, to go with the flow, to escalate the moment. But every time you pause, every time you choose stillness over urgency, you build a muscle that few men ever train. And it's not just about attraction, it's about mastery, because the man who can flirt and withdraw is the man who can lead, who can say no to the short term for the sake of the long term, who can look temptation in the face and smile, knowing that real power is in the pause, not the plunge. So practice this with intention, not to play games but to stay grounded in your value, to remind her and yourself that you are the prize, and the prize doesn't chase. It invites, it magnetizes, it commands attention without asking for it. And when she experiences that energy, she doesn't just want you. She starts questioning every man before you, because you didn't need to convince her of anything. You simply showed up different, walked away before the moment consumed you both, and now you are embedded in her memory as the one who could have, but didn't, and that will echo louder than anything you could have ever said. Number 6, you choose purpose over her. You wake up and check your phone before your feet hit the ground, and already her name's on the screen, a message, a missed call, a meme. And your instinct is to reply, to engage, to keep the flow going, because somewhere along the way you were taught that consistency equals care, that showing up 24/7 proves value. But what you're starting to see, what every man eventually sees if he pays enough attention, is that being available to her 24/7 doesn't make you a priority in her world. It makes you background noise. And the tragedy is, you're not a loser, you're not lazy, you're not weak. You're just distracted by beauty, by validation, by the subtle manipulation of affection offered and withdrawn, like a yo-yo in the hands of someone who knows exactly how much string you have left. And while you're out here skipping workouts, canceling plans, ignoring your goals just to spend more time with her, she's losing interest, not because she's evil, but because she can sense you've replaced your direction with her attention. And no woman is turned on by a man who abandons his mission for her, because deep down she wants to be led, inspired, challenged, not worshipped. And when she sees that she can sway your mood with a message, alter your schedule with a request, rewire your day with a little pout or complaint, she stops seeing you as a man and starts seeing you as a pet, a convenient toy. And the saddest part is you're doing it with love. You think you're proving your care, but what you're really doing is saying, your validation matters more than my vision. And nothing dries up a woman's attraction faster than that. But here's the truth. You have a purpose. You have a mission. You have something inside you that is aching to be built. Something you used to dream about before you let her orbit become your sun. And it's time to go back to that. To resurrect your discipline. To become the man you were before her and more. Not for revenge, not to make her regret anything, but because your life deserves to be led. Your vision deserves to be built, and you deserve to live every day like it's yours, not hers. And to do this, you must detach from the emotional hit of her affection. Stop feeding off her mood. Stop adjusting your ambition based on how sweet or distant she's being that day, and instead, build systems, write goals, plan days, protect your calendar like it's sacred, wake up early, read daily, eat with purpose, move with structure. And yes, that means sometimes you'll miss a call, sometimes you'll text late, sometimes you'll say, I'm not free tonight, not because you're trying to be cold, but because you're building a life that doesn't orbit anyone else's whim. And the wild thing is, when you do this, when she sees that your time is scheduled, your mind is clear, your mission is real, she doesn't get mad, she gets intrigued. She starts showing up differently, softer, more intentional, because now you're not just another guy hoping for her time. You're a man building something so powerful that she wants to be a part of it. And even if she doesn't, you keep going, because now you've tasted the freedom of living on purpose. And no woman, no matter how beautiful, no matter how sweet, is worth more than the mission you were born to complete. Because purpose doesn't lie. Purpose doesn't ghost you. Purpose doesn't test you. It builds you. And when you finally choose it, unapologetically, consistently, every day, you become a man not just remembered by women, but respected by the world. Number 7. You don't chase her after the fallout. She leaves, maybe suddenly, maybe with a long build-up of cold shoulders and passive-aggressive remarks, or maybe she hits you with the, "I need space," or, "It's not you, it's me," or worse, goes quiet and disappears without warning, thinking she holds the high ground, thinking you'll crumble, spiral, plead. But you don't, not this time, because you've seen this pattern before, how women create emotional storms, drop a vague justification in the middle, then expect you to come crawling back so they can play savior and victim at the same time. But now you're awake. You've had enough. And so you sit in the silence, not as punishment, not as a tactic, but as a declaration that your energy is not up for negotiation anymore. Because the man who chases after disrespect is the man who loses himself piece by piece. And you know that feeling too well. Scrolling her profile, rereading old messages, typing long texts you never send, asking yourself what you did wrong. When in truth, what you did wrong was not leave the first time she showed you she could live without you. So now you choose peace over closure, presence over performance, and power over pleading, because her silence no longer shakes you, it frees you. And while most men try to decode every little signal, you choose to disappear into your mission, and that disappearance is what triggers the shift, not in you, but in her. Because when she realizes you're not fighting for a seat at the table she flipped, she starts to question herself, not loudly, not at first, but quietly in the late hours when her phone is dry, when her DM replies go cold, when her stories are seen by strangers but not by you. And that's when your name becomes a memory, not of weakness, but of strength, of stillness, of the man who didn't chase her when she walked away. And here's the truth she never saw coming. Women are used to the echo of desperation, of men begging for second chances. But when that echo doesn't arrive, when the void stays silent, it drives her insane. Because now she has to sit with the decision she made without the reassurance of your presence to comfort her guilt, and that absence. It's louder than any argument you could have made, and it speaks one message over and over again. I do not chase what's unsure about me. And when that message sinks in, when she realizes the man she once had access to is no longer waiting, something deep in her rewires, not always in the form of an apology or a grand return, but in the internal collapse of her ego. Because no matter how many guys she strings along after you, none of them feel like you, because none of them held their center when she tried to throw them off balance. And this isn't about revenge, it's about revelation, revealing to her and to yourself that your worth is not up for debate, that love cannot be forced, that sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. So you move, not forward, up, into new visions, into sharper habits, into deeper purpose. And from that altitude she can no longer reach you, only remember you. And in that remembering, the respect she never gave you begins to form in silence, too late. And that's the real win. Not her crawling back, not her saying sorry, but you becoming the man who never needed it in the first place. Number 8. You stay unbothered while she seeks reaction. She's pressing every button, slamming cabinets, throwing shade, flirting with other men in front of you, then watching for your reaction out the corner of her eye. Posting pictures she knows you'll see, wearing outfits she never wore for you, going places you talked about visiting together. And it's all scripted for one purpose, to pull emotion from you, to shake you, to prove that she still has control over the one thing that matters most, your peace. And this is where most men crumble. They lash out, send angry texts, spiral emotionally, act out, try to win her back, or compete with her attention games. But not you, because you've seen the playbook. You know the difference between connection and control. And what she's doing now isn't love, it's bait. And bait is only dangerous when you're hungry. But you're not hungry anymore. You're full, with purpose, with self-respect, with vision. So you stay unbothered. You don't clap back. You don't try to match her energy. You stay focused, grounded, present. And this drives her crazy in a way she never admits. Because nothing unnerves a woman more than a man who won't give her his energy when she doesn't earn it. You go quiet, not passive, not avoidant, just unavailable, to drama, to manipulation, to disrespect. And now she's spinning, because her power was in your reaction, and now you've disconnected the wires. She throws the tantrum, you sip your water, she posts the thirst trap. You go to the gym, she brags about her new friend, you book a flight and build your life. And behind that performative confidence, she's wondering, why doesn't he care? But you do care, just not in the way she expects. You care about your future more than her theatrics. You care about your energy more than her validation. You care about your dignity more than temporary pleasure. That kind of care, that's evolution, that's maturity, that's rare. And the truth is, she doesn't hate you for not reacting. She fears you, because your calm is louder than her chaos. Your peace makes her anxious. Your focus exposes her distraction. And now she has to sit with her choices. No comfort, no safety net, no emotional punching bag, just herself, and the man she couldn't rattle. That's the man who lives rent-free in her head, not the one who cried, begged, chased, or competed, but the one who refused to flinch, who stayed still while she self-destructed, who stood tall while she played games. That man becomes a ghost that haunts her decisions. And every time a new guy falls for her tricks, she thinks of you, the one who didn't. You want to become unforgettable. Then stop giving energy to the things that feed on your reaction. Start building in silence. Start choosing your peace even when your pride wants to engage. Start living like your attention is gold, because it is. And if she's not paying the price for it, she doesn't deserve access. The moment you stop reacting, you start attracting, not just women, but power, presence, purpose. And those three will take you further than validation ever could. You've heard every word, because deep down, you know this isn't just about women. It's about reclaiming yourself. You're tired of being the man who bends, who begs, who explains. Tired of giving chances to women who drain your peace and then punish you for having a backbone. That ends today. If you're ready to become the man who leads, who commands respect without raising his voice, who never has to explain no twice, then the Stoic relationship blueprint is your next move. This isn't advice. It's a weapon, and it's waiting for you in the pinned comment. Yours for life, yours forever. No games, just the cold, freeing truth you were never taught. If you're ready to grab this now and lock in this new standard for yourself, comment, "I choose strength," right now. Like the video. Subscribe, not just for you, but for every man who's stuck in silence, who's drowning in confusion, who needs this message to save him years of regret.